the decimals and ordering your decimals. So the first blank you need to fill in is the decimal point. Decimal point. The decimal point in a number separates the whole number from the parts of a number. The position of each number after the decimal point indicates the value of the number. So we're going to look at this number here, 428.357. Now we're going to break that into this place value chart here. We have got 4 in the hundreds, we've got 2 in the tens, we've got 8 units, or you can also call those ones. Then we have the decimal point. We have 3 tenths, 5 hundredths, and 7 in the thousandths place. Now, there's a second row in that table because we can expand that into what we call expanded form. 4 hundredths can be written as 4 times by 100. Expanding that. 2 tenths means 2 times by 10. Units or ones, I've got 8 of them, so that would be 8 times 1. Then we have our decimal point again. 3 tenths is the same as 3 times by 1 tenth. Or in other words, you could write that as 3 over 10. Means the same thing. That's why we go straight to tenths. Okay, we don't have any oneths, do we? The reason these are called tenths in that first decimal place spot is because it's always over 10 when you write it in this form. So they're tenths. And so the next one being hundredths means that it's going to be 5 lots of 1 over 100 or 5 over 100. 5 hundredths. That's what you call that. And then thousandths means 7 lots of 1 over 1,000, or in other words, 7 over 1,000. So when we have our decimal point here in the middle, the numbers going to the left, going that way, they are all whole numbers. The numbers going to the right are all fractions. Can be written as fractions. So we are going to practice the decimal point ones, particularly writing those as fractions. So question number 1, it says, what is the value of the 8 in the following numbers? So we find the 8. There it is in the first one, 12.85. It's the first spot after the decimal place, otherwise known as the tenths. So to find the value of that, I want to write it down as 8 over 10. 8 tenths. That's its value. For part B, find the 8 again. There it is. It's in the 1, 2, 3, the third decimal place, which is the thousandths. So I could write it as 8 over 1,000, and that is its value. Now, fractions and decimals, they're very easy to change between them. So like a 0.8 was 8 over 10. We're going to practice that some more. Here in question 2, I'm giving you some fractions, and we want to write them as decimals. So if something is over 10, like in part A, that is 7 over 10. That means that 7 needs to go into the tenths spot, which is the first decimal place. In other words, 0.7 is the 7 in the tenths place. Does that make sense? And the part B, it's 5 over 100. So that 5 has to go into the hundredths place, which is the second decimal place. So I need 0.0, not the tenths. I don't want it in that first spot. I want it in the second one over from the decimal point to make it 5 hundredths. And part C, the 3 represents the whole number. That would be at the front of my decimal point. The 17 over 100 means I need to put 17 in the hundredths position. Because it's a 2-digit number, the 1 is going to get bumped up into the tenths. So it's in the tenths, and the 7 is in the hundredths position. That's right. Now, all of these things you can check on your calculator. Let me show you how. So let's do that let's do the first one first. The first one I just did, we use our fraction button, and we go 7 on the top and 10 on the bottom. We press equals, and our calculator gives us a fraction, because our calculator likes to give us fractions. If we want our calculator to give us a decimal, does anyone remember the button? Hands up. Anyone remember which button? Yes? SD. Good. So the SD button, which is this one here, for anyone who is not familiar, if you press that button, it changed it into a decimal for me. 0.7, which is what we had. For part C, when you've got a mixed numeral, you need to use the 3 boxes to type that in. So you have to press Shift and then your fraction button to bring up the 3 boxes like that. Then you use your arrows to navigate around the boxes. So 3, use the cross arrow, go across. Then 17 on the top and 100 on the bottom. Press equals, and it's still a fraction. It turned it into an improper fraction, but still a fraction. So press the SD, and there it is. It's a decimal. Okay? So I would like you to try to do the questions without your calculator, but you've always got your calculator there to check. So I used the 3 boxes. To get the 3 boxes up, you press Shift and your fraction button. Type in, use your arrow keys up the top to type in the numbers. Press equals, and then press the SD button to make it go to a decimal. Got it? Great. All right. Question 3. Arrange the following decimals into ascending order. Decimals are much easier than fractions to do this. So looking at all those numbers, some of them are starting with a 3. So I've got 3.72. I've got 7.23. And I've got ones that start with 2, 2.73 and 2.37. So all of those ones, if I'm looking at the ones position, I want to order them first. So the smallest one in the ones position is going to be the number 2. So it's going to be these 2 here that are going to go first. Now, because they both start with a 2, I then need to look at the tenths position to see which one is smaller. And in the tenths position, the 3 is smaller than the 7. So this one is going to be the smaller one. I start with that, 2.37, comma. The next one's going to be the other one starting with 2, so that was 2.73. Okay, so I've done both of the numbers that started with a 2. Then, next biggest one will be the one starting with 3, these ones. The 3s are the same, so I have to look into the tenths position. So it's a 2 and a 7. The 2 is going to be smaller, so this number is next. 3.27. And then the 3.72. And finally, that leaves the 2 numbers that start with a 7. Looking at the tenths position, the 2 is smaller, so this number first, 7.23. And then lastly, 7.32. Okay, so that is a quick little one there. You've only got one page. We are not finishing there today though, so I'm going to give you a